Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we will discuss about what are the 7 cardinal principles of homeopathy. So every scientific theory in this world has its own governing laws and principles. Since science attempts to understand the laws that governs nature, the successful practice of every science depends upon how one understands those laws and how artistically one can apply these laws in their routine life. So homeopathic laws are also strictly follows certain laws and the doctrines. As homeopathy is a scientific system, it is made up of certain facts, laws, rules and methods and processes. The homeopathic medicines consisting of revitalized potencies of the toxic substances that still contain subtle traces of this initial substance. A microscope detects nothing and sees only water and sugar. But spectrophotometry reveals the light released in the water, so the granules does not contain only water and sugar, as some researchers claim superficially, but it is also electromagnetic traces of the initial substance that mimic the later, which has been highly diluted and shaken successively to produce this homeopathic potentization. Now, how the homeopathic remedy works. So this electromagnetic animal or plant which is formed of energy, electricity and water. It stimulates its natural defense mechanism, but only when the remedy is adequate. For it must be understood that one of the basic principles of the homeopathy is similarity. The remedy must correspond to the person receiving that particular remedy. Now let me explain the basic principles of the homeopathy to you guys. So first law of the homeopathy is law of Similia. Now I'll be discussing this in an elaborated manner with you guys. So let's talk about law of Similia. So the law of Similia is the very basis of the homeopathic system. The word homeopathy is derived from the two Greek words, homeos and pathos. Homeos means similar and pathos means suffering. So homeopathy is nothing but a therapeutic application of the symptom similarity. And this law of Similia was well known to the ancient Ayurvedic physicians, that is Hippocrates and Stahl. The recognition of the law underlying cure is of the ancient origin. No one knows the first recognition of this law crept into use, but ancient Hindu manuscripts recorded its application, and certainly Aristotle recognized it, and Hippocrates sensed the possibilities of this law and applied it in some recorded cases. Dr. Hippocrates identified this law of Similia as the only curative law in the universe. But it was the master Dr. Christian Friedrich Samuel Hahnemann, the medical genius, who made this method practically possible. He tried to bring this law to the level of universal application. The law of the Similia existed in the form of nature's law. Before the time of the Hahnemann, since the nature's law was started as similia similibus curantur, which means like cures like. And nature's law was not safer to apply as it is. Hence, Dr. Hahnemann modified it and made it therapeutically applicable and relatively harmless. Thus, he gave the law of Similia by just modifying the nature's law. And the homeopathic law is similia similibus curantur, which I have already told you, that is, let the like to be cured by like. So this was all about the first law of homeopathy, that is law of Similia. Now let's talk about the second law of homeopathy, that is law of Simplex. Now what is law of Simplex? So let's talk about it. So homeopathy strongly supports monopharmacy, that is, prescribing and administering only a single simple remedy at a time to a patient at a given time. Now the reasons for prescribing monopharmacy are: the homeopathic materia medica is constructed with the help of healthy humans drug probing. In this process, of drug proving, each crude drug substance is proved on humans as a single substance as it is available in nature. Secondly, the effects produced by the drugs are entered as a drug picture of that medicine into the materia medica. This drug picture is the effect of a single medicinal substance capable of developing in a human being. Thirdly, the homeopathic doctors select a remedy for the patient by comparing the patient's picture with that of the most suitable drug picture in the materia medica. Fourthly, hence practically it is possible to select only one medicine at a time for one patient. And if the physicians administer two remedies, he will certainly end up in confusion, unable to decide which medicine has worked well. So, follow-up of the case, that is remedy reaction, becomes difficult. And fifthly, if more than one remedy is prescribed, those medicines can antitode each other, or they together can create a new drug substance by making the condition miserable, because the combined effect of these medicines are not proved. Lastly, homeopathy believes that the diseases are primarily because of the rearrangement of the life force, that is called vital force. To set right this one force, the medicinal force required is also one. So Dr. Hahnemann was vexed with the complex mixtures of the medicines used in his time, which while on one hand couldn't cure the disease, on the other complicated the condition of the patient. So it is wrong. This was all about the second law of homeopathy, that is law of simplex. Now third law of homeopathy, that is law of minimum dose. So let's talk about it in an elaborated manner so that it become understandable to you guys. So law of minimum dose. The minimum dose of the medicine is the one which can bring out the curative reactions in the vital force without disturbing or damaging the body. It is his initial stages of homeopathic practice. Dr. Hahnemann used large quantity of homeopathic medicines, but as years went by, his experience taught him that the smallest doses are curative than the larger doses. In homeopathy, the minimum dose possible is recommended. This is because primarily to avoid unwanted aggravations, that is damage to the patient. Ernst Sussel's physiological law, which states that weak stimuli excite physiological action of the substance, moderate one favors it, and the strong stimuli retard the action or abolish together. And further, in homeopathy, it is believed that the quantity of the drug required is in reverse ratio to the similarity. This means the greater the similarity between the patient symptom and the drug symptoms, the minimum the quantity of the medicine is required. So, administration of the minimum dose has the following advantages. And the first advantage is to avoid the unwanted medicinal aggravations. So because of the aggravation might trouble the suffering patient unnecessarily or can remove the sensitivity of the vital force. Secondly, the minute quantity of the dose has the capacity to produce uncommon, peculiar and mental symptoms as observed in the healthy human drug proving. The smallest dose prevent the organic damage. Third advantage is that the minimum dose protect the patient from any type of drug addiction or side effects. Next advantage, chemistry teaches us that substance in different doses act in a different way. For example, the Glauber salt, or simply you can say natrum sulf sodium sulfate, in a large dose causes diarrhea in human beings. The same substance in smaller dose reduces the level of intracellular water level, thus increasing the urinary secretions. The same chemical has different actions in different states of the dilutions. So, minimum dose is also supported by many personalities. One of the greatest personality, that is Dr. Finkel, says the quantity of the action of the homeopathic remedy is determined by its quantity in reverse ratio. So this was all about the third law of homeopathy. Now next we'll talk about the fourth law of homeopathy, that is doctrine of drug proving. So let's talk about it. So Master Hahnemann in his early days of the practice wrote to his friend that I have been putting drugs of which I know little into the bodies of which I know less. So I can but renounce the practice of medicine that I may no longer incur the risk of doing injury. So, such was the state of the material America in the 18th century. The medicines were administered carelessly. To avoid these careless prescriptions in homeopathy, only well-proven medicines have to be administered to the patient. Moreover, the medicines has to be proved on both healthy males and females in the different age groups and the various constitutions. So, Master Hahnemann was the first person to practically prove the medicines on the healthy humans, and homeopathic drug proving can be defined as the process of administering the drugs to the healthy human beings on different ages, different constitutions, and both the sexes, with the sole purpose of observing, compiling, and recording their sick-making or sick-curing properties. Now, what are the advantages of the human drug proving over animal drug proving? This is a very important point here. So, let's talk about it. So, man is intellectually superior to the other animals on this planet. Yes, we all know that. So, hence, the effect of the drug on his mind and the intellectual can only be studied by human drug proving. And animals may not explain subjective and the mental symptoms accurately. For example, fear, anxiety, desires, aversions, and sensations. Next, the effect of the same medicines differ from animals to human because their anatomy is different. Next, we cannot get modalities and many intellectual symptoms in animals. And next, for a homeopathic point of view, the symptoms of the mind and the Kant's generals like dreams are the most important symptoms to be ascertained. Hence, to know the capacity of any drug to produce such symptom is only possible by proving them on the human beings. Now, next advantage is qualitative study like finding out the taste and the smell of the medicinal substances is only possible in human drug proving. And the experiments of the homeopathy are made by men for man under the natural conditions which belongs to everyday life of the man. So they are not necessarily conducted in elaborately equipped technique. Now, very important, why the drug should not be proved on sick. What are the reasons behind this? Because the curative effects of the drugs can be neutralized by the symptoms of the sick person and may not produce any effect in drug proving. Secondly, the symptoms of the sick person mix with the symptom of the drug and produce mixed symptoms. And thirdly, drug proving in homeopathy has certain rules and regulations which has been incorporated by the Hahnemann in aphorism 1 law of homeopathy, that is doctrine of drug dynamisation. Let's talk about it. It's quite interesting. So this doctrine was first introduced in the 5th edition of the Organon in the year 1833. Along with the doctrine of the vital force, the dynamisation is a process by which the medicinal or the curative properties of the crude substance can be brought out, which are otherwise inherent or latent. So Hahnemann introduced two processes of potentization. First was trituration and second was succussion. Now, what is trituration? So a trituration is a dynamisation process for the insoluble substances, and succussion is the dynamisation process for the soluble substances. Now, what are the advantages of the dynamisation of the medicines? Let's talk about it. So, the first advantage is that the dynamisation process reduces the quantitative existence of the medicine and decrease the risk of aggravation. Secondly, those substances which are not medicinally useful in their crude form can be aroused and their medicinal properties can be brought out. For example, the common salt, that is natrum mur, or the Surucucus snake poison, that is Lachesis muta, and next is a sand, that is Silicia. These are made important remedies by the process of potentization. Third advantage of dynamization, the action of the potentized medicine is deeper, longer, and brighter. Fourth advantage, life force, that is a vital force, is dynamic in nature. The Morvic forces like miasms is also dynamic, and hence the curative medicinal forces must also be dynamic in nature. Next, the dynamization process reduces the material part of the medicines to an incredible degree. Hence, the law of minimum dose can be made more practical. Next. So this was all about the law of drug dynamization, or simply you can say doctrine of drug dynamization. Let's talk about the sixth law of homeopathy, that is doctrine of chronic diseases. So the theory of chronic diseases was first introduced in the 4th edition of Organon in the year 1829, and during this early days of the homeopathic practice, Hahnemann noticed that in spite of administering the best simillimum remedy, some cases has a very bad recurrence of the symptoms. He investigated for a period of 12 years and came to the conclusion that miasms is the cause for all the diseases. And according to Dr. Hahnemann, miasms are the basic, fundamental, and the real causes for all the diseases. Miasms are the dynamic disease-causing powers, and he beautifully explained the projected and the miasms as the cause of the disease in the revolutionary work called The Chronic Diseases. And in the year 1828, in the late years, the concept of the chronic disease was introduced in the 4th edition of the Organon. The three miasms are namely Sora, Syphilis, and Psychosis. And among these three, Sora is the most fundamental, destructive, and the oldest miasm. This is called as the mother of all the miasms. Sora is the cause of 7 by 8 of all the diseases. Syphilis and psychosis constitute the rest. Unless these miasms are removed from the body, the patient cannot be cured of his illness. So Dr. Hahnemann confidently states that only dynamic homeopathic remedies can cure these chronic diseases. So this was all about the sixth law, that is theory of the chronic diseases. Now last but not the least, that is the seventh cardinal principle of homeopathy, that is doctrine of vital force. Let's talk about it. So this doctrine was introduced in the 5th edition of the Organon in the year 1833, and homeopathy believed in the existence of an animating life force in the human body, which Dr. Hahnemann called as a vital force. The doctrine of the chronic diseases and the doctrine of the vital force has given homeopathy a place in the holistic system of medicine. According to this theory, the diseases is because of the rearrangement of the dynamic vital force by the dynamic disease-producing power, that is miasms. And in the healthy condition of the man, the vital force maintains the normal functions of all the system in an organisms. In disease, this vital force is first one to be deranged by the miasms, that is Sora, Syphilis, and Psychosis. Then, the symptoms which we notice in the disease are produced by the vital force. And with the assistance of dynamic homeopathic medicines, this rearranged vital force can release itself from the morbid forces called miasms. And Dr. Hahnemann explained the vital force in the 9th aphorism of the term vital force has been replaced by the term vital principle in certain areas of the 6th editions. So Dr. Hahnemann was neither a pure vitalist nor a pure materialist, but he was an integrist. Importance to both the life force and the physical body. Homeopathy believes that health and the disease are the result of the changing state of the equilibrium between the body and the vital force. So this was all about the 7th cardinal principle of homeopathy. So I hope you understand the 7 cardinal principles of homeopathy very well. And if you have any doubt, so you can always ask us in the comment box below. So that's all for today. See you guys in our next video. Till then, stay connected with us for more videos like this. Don't forget to subscribe and comment below, and yes, press the bell icon for more updates. Stay safe and stay healthy. And yes, thanks for watching this video.